All right, let's continue then on our discussion of the Constitutional Court ruling today that Section 19 of the Electoral Act is invalid. And we're joined now via Skype by political analyst Professor Lesiba Teffo. A very good afternoon to you, Prof. Thank you so very much for joining us here on SABC News.
Yes, good afternoon, Flo, and the viewers out there.
I'd like to first start by talking about the political ramifications of this Constitutional Court ruling. What does it mean for political parties going forward? And interestingly, as we were discussing with Lawson Naidu before chatting with you, it seemed that some of the political parties were welcoming the move, and I thought it was rather ironic that they would welcome this move. But what are your thoughts going forward and what it means really for political parties?
I'm all smiles because some of us have been at it for a long, long time, both in terms of debate and in terms of publications. And it was 2003, 2004 that the ruling party had an appetite to change the Electoral Act as envisaged at the time when the Constitution was adopted. It was never, ever the Act intended to be permanent. But somewhere along the highway, they lost the appetite for it because of fear of losing power. But at least some people who were persistent and tenacious to a point where today I would regard this as a momentous occasion. Many will look back and say that was the turning point, perhaps that saved South Africa from the precipice it found itself at the time. But the implication thereof is uncomplicated. South Africa has joined the family of nations. It was one of the odd democracies, quasi-democracies in the world, where people elect the parties and they don't elect their own leaders, where the party heads can decide who must preside over them, rather than the people themselves deciding for themselves. So here we are. I'm sure even those who walked away from the ruling party might say this is an opportune moment to return, because men and women of integrity, men of women of substance and character will be elected by their constituencies, will be elected by their own, and they will be accountable to those that elected them rather than to the party X.
But Prof, what I wonder then, are we putting ourselves in danger of perhaps a dictatorship? You know, one will need to be affiliated to a certain political party and therefore would not necessarily be acting according to the whim of a particular party, but their own sort of desires and what they want, without having, you know, voices that could say, look, this is not how you should be doing things because you are one person. Is this not dangerous in terms of the fact that party leaders, won't actually, the fact that a leader who is elected then won't need to toe the line?
Whose line? Because there's only one line to toe, is the constituency that elected you. You are accountable to them and not to the party, right? Yeah. To the extent that you have also joined a party, that is fine. But it is the people that elected you. It is the constituency and not the party that determines your destiny.
Let me give you an example of why. Let me give you an example of why I raised this. I've raised this before. Is the fact that we have an issue where we have a leader like Donald Trump in the world, where he basically is doing whatever pleases him. And I wonder if our country, if South Africa, is necessarily ready for that sort of a situation.
I would have loved to finish my thought before I came to that.
Sure, you can continue to do that.
You see, you become accountable to the constituency and not to the people. And it is men and women of character, of integrity, who shall have passed the test of the specific constituency. And through the ballot box they send you, through the ballot box they can recall you. Coming back to Donald Trump, I suspect Donald Trump is a person some people love to hate. It is the people of America who elected him. And it is the people of America despite all the flaws that he demonstrated, that they still voted for him. And then he's accountable. Remember, people get the government they deserve, and the government also gets the people it deserves.
Okay, I'd like then for you to weigh it out for us then in terms of having this system. What are the sort of pros and cons there then of having, an independent candidates running for office and perhaps then actually winning those elections? What are the pros and cons that we have not maybe seen now as we had the system that we've had all along?
Put differently, why is it that this is a universal system? We are among the first 5 in the whole world that are pursuing this odd system. Already therein lies a profound question that should be interrogated by South Africans. That are we not the odd child of the political dispensation that we have embraced? The tenets thereof that we are not living up to? Because at the end of the day, the people, there will be balances and checks. There will be people elected by the people. Proportional representation was good for a time. If you take it out, I can assure you, one day you look back and be grateful that that decision was taken and that decision put. The corruption you see, the rot that is going out in the mediocrity that is being celebrated, the arrogance of power that you witness, that will be something of the past. Because your employer will be your constituency. The people shall govern. And indeed, through this, the possibility of the people governing and not the party acts shall be seen to be in action.
Prof, I heard former DA leader Mmusi Maimane reacting to the judgment, and he said that the party system has been broken and reform is needed, and hence he was quite happy about this ruling. Do you then agree, I mean, judging from what you're saying, that the party system has indeed been broken, and what exactly broke that party system, so to speak?
Yes, you see, as a senior student of philosophy, I can tell you, there is something that is called the tyranny of the party. Were it not for the party system that is centralized, Thabo Mbeki would have finished his presidency. And undoubtedly, he was a very capable CEO of South Africa. But the party hacks, the limited few, incidentally, only 4 people in the ruling party fired Thabo Mbeki. 3 of them went back to apologize to him and to the nation. I'm still waiting for the last fellow to apologize. So what are we saying? The party system can be corrupted, especially when it's too centralized. And in the party, ultimately out of a million, you find out that there are only 2 or 3 people whose voices matter to the exclusion of the rest.
Yeah.
So if you don't manage it well, you can experience what I call the tyranny of the party. You manage it well, you have it in Germany, you have it in Britain, you have it in Botswana, you have it in Tanzania. It can work, and it does work.
Prof, just in closing, do you not worry about perhaps this being open more to people who have the finances to do so, the time to do so, the money, the financial backing to, start a political campaign, and to, people who have certain ambitions to be president, for example, to then go ahead and do so? I mean, I wonder if, the small man on the street would be able to, who has political ambitions, would then be able to do this, be able to go in as an individual. Might this not then be something that is particularly saved for those who have the money to fund their own political campaigns?
Yes, depending on the political maturity and the political literacy, not education, but political literacy of a nation. The man who built Singapore to what it is was called from the classroom in Harvard, or I think in Harvard, and he turned Singapore to what you and I know it to be. Last year, a professor of law was taken out of the classroom, and both the ruling party and the opposition were agreed. This is the type of man who can lead us. This is the man who must take over. He's now the president, right? That is when people are politically mature when people understand it is about the people and not about themselves. The reason why you can use money, and there is nothing wrong with using money to campaign, but I'm saying if the constituencies know who is right for them to lead, regardless of how shallow the pockets are, and you start building incrementally on that, and later on you may have the Donald Trumps, the Bezos, the Bill Gates, that's fine, there is nothing, but if you want the right leadership, go for the right people, and then you'll reap the benefits that we all aspire for.
All right, Professor Lesiba Teffo, thank you so very much for chatting to us here on SA Today. Thank you for your time.